Hey, my name's shawnshawn. I sell art on shawnshawn.co. Today we're going to react to Niaz Hannan watercolors. So Niaz Hannan, he's out of India. He's a watercolor painter. If you look at the top of his YouTube channel, he has this really nice watercolor in the background, which I really like. I think that's really strong. You might want to add your face in here as well. But you also have your face below in the profile. He has a really nice, he's dead on center, which is what you want. He has a blurred background, which is very photographic. A lot of nice colors in the background, so it looks very blurred, very matching his style as a watercolor. The only problem is he's you gotta smile. I don't know, maybe in India being serious sells better, but if you're gonna sell outside the States into the US or even Britain, a nice smile is gonna sell you way more watercolor than being But you might be able, if you're selling, then just ignore that advice. But we'll look below. He has an intro watercolor with very relaxing. So he has one of his paintings is kind of an intro video. That's good. He has videos at the top, play all popular videos, some playlists with you and shorts. I would say move the popular videos to the top. He has about basically 3 types of styles. He does cityscapes, he does landscapes. I think he does forest scenes. So I would do playlists probably like that. That would kind of put that more into the thing, and maybe how to is one of the playlists. I think that's what the paint with me is, but because he has 595 videos, so he could probably subcategorize that a little more fine detail now that he has so many videos. First video we're going to cover is called Watercolor Painting Tutorial for Beginners, step by step the actual process with a finger. You might say by Niaz as well. That might be nice to add there, because if you look it up then you find Niaz as in the seal. So he pulls out a little watercolor booklet. That's kind of cool. Very nice music in the background. A little bit of rain in the background too, which kind of reflects the style. So that's very nice music matching the style. He's showing some of his paintings, which is good for a marketing standpoint. So I like how he just frames it out without really making it straight or anything with a ruler, just like really rough. That's really cool. Let's go skip a little bit ahead, guys. So there's some cars he might put into this. So I think he's just kind of sketching out what might be there. That's interesting. He puts the cars on the same line. So he could just do a voice along. I think that'd be super strong, because he does speak native English, so there's no reason not to speak native English in here. Being in India, they're native English speakers. Maybe with a slight accent, but you know, it's going to be also adding a nice intro like, hey, I'm Niaz, I'm from India, Mumbai, blah, blah, blah. I do watercolor, would be a much stronger video, I think. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit more. It was a really nice pencil sketch to kind of see how you want to put your cars in there and everything. It's interesting he puts all the cars from one horizontal line. I think he's saying that because watercolor is inexact. Alright, so let's scroll ahead a little bit, guys. So here I think he is lightly sketching it in this time. I would use a lighter pencil, because you could use a lighter pencil lead so it wouldn't be so obvious when you... unless he's just doing a sketch. I'm not sure if it's a sketch or watercolor here. Let's scroll ahead a little bit more, guys. Okay, so he is using that really basic sketch to kind of paint it in. It's very rough, which I really like, because watercolor is kind of rough anyway, so it's kind of nice to kind of use the watercolor elements. It's inexact, so you just kind of are really roughing it in. Which is really cool, because some artists transition this watercolor look to their actual work. There's a famous want to say Austrian artist or Swiss artist that I covered that was really great at this. So this is really cool. Even if you never really sell the watercolors, you can use it for, you know, learning for other style of painting that's a little more permanent than watercolor. Like, I would just skip that hair blowing dryer. You just let it sit for 10 minutes. It looks a little more professional, but I've used a hair dryer before too, so it's just more realistic that he's using the hair blower, I guess. I love how dirty the palette is. It's very dirty. It's not clean at all. So he's telling you how he's mixing his colors, which is really good. Let's skip ahead a little more, guys. These are all the red lights off the ground if it's wet. And in India, it's a lot more dirt in the air, a lot more dust in the air, so you're going to have a kind of a dirtier look in the painting, per se, because that's what your reference point is going to be, much more, so to say, dirt. Like, my friend went back and he was so surprised how dirty it was, because he's from India, but then when he went back, he's like, oh my god, it's so much dust in there, I can't believe it, I forgot about this, you know. But it makes sense, you forget any memory, you're going to remember the good parts and kind of gloss over the bad parts somehow. That's what your brain does for you. I like how he's kind of captured some of the very light highlights still in the bottom ground, so you can see that trying to recapture some of those highlights from the It's interesting because in reality you might have a car in the very front that would block the view, but I think I agree with him that you wouldn't want to block that. It just doesn't make for a good composition. So he has a splatter effect which makes it really look like rainfall, so that kind of adds a lot to the painting, so to say. Yeah, know when to stop. That's very important. You can always overwork a painting. Very nice pencils, signing. You might want to sign this in pen just to make sure it's permanent, but very, very nicely done. Let's go to the next video. So having a voiceover would have been a much better way to do that video, I think. But obviously very highly skilled. This one is called, "This is why every beginner must get these watercolor supplies, best budget watercolor box." It has like nice signature to start, which is really cool. Subscribe button, you gotta have that as a YouTuber. A lot of different viewpoints is nice. I think a little bit too much transition there. It's good to have multiple viewpoints, but not so fast, I would say. Just slow down a little bit. I like that his set is just completely used up and just, you know, look how dirty and used this is. You know, he's definitely a painter. Which I really appreciate because a lot of painters have like these perfect supplies and it looks so fake. So I think he's doing a color study here of how the colors work. Again, just having a voiceover would increase the value of this, I think, unless his voice is gone. There's no reason not to do a voiceover. It would just add so much to this video, I think. You get more of the cultural references and a little more of the details, like why you want to buy indie artist versus another generic watercolor artist. So he's going to do that. Let's skip ahead a little bit more, guys. So he's doing another sketch. I think that's really valuable too, to have what he's marking out the colors, what they look like after they dry and everything. So he's got that nice 2/3 composition. Maybe it's 3/5 composition as far as where the horizontal line is. Which probably makes sense for a cityscape. That's a really good horizontal line. You get much more feel of the atmosphere and moodiness of it with the rainfall and whatever he's going to put in here. Let's scroll ahead a little bit more. He's adding this really atmosphere with a lot of grays, which he likes the blacks and the grays a lot in his work. Which again gives it a very city feel. If it's a dirty city, it's very, you're gonna have a lot of dust in here. Stuff gets dirty, so that makes sense. Again, cultural reference, Indian, you know, it's more dustier, so it's gonna be, the city's gonna be more dustier looking. Let's scroll a little more, guys. I think this is all in black and white. I'm not sure. Looks like smooth he's coming up on. He paints when it's very wet, so it's just wet and wet, which is typical in watercolor, but there's a lack of fine detail here because it always gets blurred out a lot of times, the way he works, but it just depends on your style of working, right? Like, this is a nice thing of watercolors, just suggests to him he's not really doing full lines, he's just doing little suggestion of where the lamppost might be, might kind of look like, which is just a really beautiful painting process. Let's scroll closer to the end here. He's going to add a little bit of light here. So he's kind of blending, he's trying to do with the lights would work much better in, say, acrylic or oil, where you can kind of smudge it out and come back. Watercolor is not as forgiving, I would say. It's a little more challenging. It's cool that he has a highlight on the light. Makes the lights pop a lot more. Let's scroll to the end here, guys. So he's got some of the splashes of white to make it look like it's rainfall, maybe snowing. Snow would make more sense for this being black and white, but it's a very beautiful black and white watercolor with just a touch of color, just a little bit, to kind of make it come out. Very cool. Third video is called Want to See My Watercolor Skills Watercolor Painting Tutorial on A4. I guess A4 is a good thing to say because then you can say it's metric, you know, like that's very common in Europe, obviously in India as well. And States is going to be different sizes by inch. I don't know if you want the A4 in there or not, but again, I would add by Niaz. That would be cool to add that in the SEO. Not for beginners. Ooh, this is going to be the expert level. Let's see what this is. So it starts with a signature. I like that. That's a really cool way. A little bit of a story where he shows a little bit of the finished painting starting off. Gonna pencil it in, got the subscribe button, which you need. I like how he just really super roughs out where the painting's gonna, we'll just do some blurry lines and just real rough because it's watercolor, so it's gonna be rough, which is, you know, just that's really cool. So he's gonna sketch in his waterline. Let's go a little bit ahead. So it's another cityscape. And it's just so cool how rough these figures and cars and everything are. It's just super rough, which just has its own look to it. Some people like this, some people like this. This is interesting because he's adding a car closer up, which he normally doesn't do. I guess he's adding the light, the street. Oh, he's going to add a stoplight, I guess. Traffic light is just really high up. See, that I would take out of the composition. It doesn't really add much, adding a big street lamp. Let's skip ahead a little bit, guys. He's adding like a, oh, it's a time clock, okay. He's drawing with the hair color again. Just look at that palette, it's so dirty, it's so awesome. Like, that looks like a painter of palette, you know, like not this clean stuff, just really nice and dark and dirty. Just really into the paint. And working with kind of the paint overlapping and mixing it together like there, it's really cool. Interesting, it's all in red. Because I wouldn't think of the red as kind of a neutral tone. You do this in painting a lot. Like acrylic or oil, you'd have a red background and then work over that on top and have a little bit of the red pop through. That's a really cool effect that a lot of painters use. But in watercolor, I'm not sure where he's going with it. Maybe it works the same, I'm not sure. But to me, it's like all the colors always blend together. So he's adding some purples on top. And it's just cool how rough the edges are. You know, he just sketched it in rough and then lets the paint go where it was. It's not taped off, which I like. It's just way cooler looking than taping it off and having a perfect edge. It is way cooler just with a rough edge. Let's scroll ahead up a little bit more. Fill in a little bit of the figures. that in nature, but with the cityscape, does that make sense? I guess you'd have little antennas and stuff on the top of the buildings. Here's that really dark black for the, it's obviously in the foreground, so you have to make it pop with the colors being more intense. That makes sense a lot. Scroll ahead a little bit more, guys. Made that street really dark. Wow, that's just super dark. Oh. Just trying to clean up that sidewalk, which you can do right away if you take it. If you use Q-tips, you get a little bit or a little more finer control probably than with just paper towel. But when you're working watercolor, you're working pretty fast as far as wet to dry. You have to kind of work with those time frames. You get really nice figures there in the foreground, so that's, I don't know if that's a mistake or what. I mean, the sidewalk's nice, but he's kind of adding the sidewalk in really light, maybe. Maybe that'll dry different, it'll look good. So here he's making it darker. I'm not sure if that needs to be that dark because, or you want that lamppost to be the darkest. Let's scroll a little more, guys. Okay, so that faded so it doesn't look as drastic. I like how you spelled out cafeteria, just really rough. It's really cool. Just very consistent with the style, just very rough and a suggestion of a figure, a suggestion of a car. Just it goes really well with this style of watercolor. Just to really rough it. You're abstracting the figures, but it's still realistic. It's just a really cool style to do it this way. Because you really have to have a good understanding of the figure. Like he said earlier, you're just matching the height to the figure, to the car to make sure the proportions are right, which is tricky. So you really have to know those pretty well. The sky looks really good now with this gray sky. Which is very... And he likes the splatter effect, which I kind of like. I don't know if I like it totally, but... Like, it just looks so grimy the way he's doing it with his black. Which is a cool style, but I don't know. It's just very grungy looking. Like, I think it's a little bit too much for black and white, but that's just me. Adding some highlights here. Let's go close to the end, guys. I like how he's showing you a mix of the colors too. You get a feel for it. That's good. He's testing out the color. Here's where he adds some of the color, which he just adds a little bit here and there. It's really interesting. He just uses a touch of red to make it pop because he's using a red wash with this kind of grayed out, and then he adds this. Oh, this is very nice how he's painting it. I would just use a pencil on that, but it looks really good as far as the signature as well. And it's super cool with how abstracted it is, but still looks like a city. That's really cool what you can do in watercolor. And so at the end, he finishes it with kind of a little overscreen. So the only thing I would do is add a headshot, maybe a voiceover. It's going to make a stronger video, I think. He doesn't have a website, which is really unfortunate. He's relying on Instagram, Facebook, I think Pinterest as well, which isn't bad. It's a good place to start, but any of those can disappear. I had a big MySpace account. A lot of our hundreds of hours disappeared. So any of those sites can disappear. Instagram, boop. Facebook, boop. So if you have your work at a website, you can control it and you can make more of a custom look. You can have more of an intro with a face of your shot explaining your work, why you paint the way you paint, which isn't explained at all in the videos. You just kind of feel of the paint, which some painters do with this style. But yeah, let's look at his Instagram. Again, the danger of Instagram is you can easily go off to other Instagram accounts, so that's a really big flaw. He has a picture, I think, with his girlfriend or wife here, which is good. He has a picture out here, cityscape, some of the paints. So it's a very gritty, painterly look, I think, on Instagram, which is very strong. And So a very cool thing. I don't know if he's selling or not because he's not really posting a place to sell it at online, which is strange not to do that. Maybe he sells through a local gallery. I'm not sure how it works. But very, very cool style. You know, he's just got some really good work. I don't know why this car is here, but like that car doesn't have anything to do with painting. Maybe use it as a sculpture, but this is really nice. Just a sunscape. He uses a lot of black in his painting. It's just interesting how his painting work. But yeah, the danger of this is you could just say someone clicks home by accident, then you're on your own webpage or whatever, and then next thing you know, you've disappeared, and then now you're in some other one's feed. So that's the danger of being on an Instagram account. But yeah, that's Niaz Hannan from India. Hope you guys like it. If you want to subscribe, you can subscribe below. And I'll see you in the next Artist React video. Thanks for watching, guys.